Hey everybody, this is Raquel from Premier Republic. I run strategic partnerships here, and I'm here to bring you a new episode of our interview series for our emergency marketing center from Premier Republic. As you know, Premier Republic is here to help businesses survive through the COVID-19 pandemic and prepare their businesses for the eventual rebound that will happen. So that's why we're preparing a huge hub of content for you, for marketing leaders to have one place to come and explore the latest news, articles, webinars, and interviews on how to maintain trust and relationships with your clients through digital and social media marketing. So hope you enjoy this next interview, and you can also subscribe to our newsletter for weekly updates. Today's interview is with Art McCracken, who's the Chief Strategy Officer at LuLaRoe. Hi, Art.
Hi, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Fantastic.
Great. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today.
You bet. It's my honor to be here and glad to help out and help answer any questions you might have.
Great, thank you. So the purpose of today's podcast is to dive into the COVID-19 strategy that you currently are rolling out at LuLaRoe, because many companies right now are in the same boat. They're reactive and trying to make something sustainable right now, so that way when the bounce back happens, they're right on their toes and ready to go. How is COVID-19 influencing the processes within LuLaRoe, and what changes have you made thus far or are planning to make?
Sure, great question. Obviously, this COVID-19 disease has been something that has impacted us both domestically and globally with supply chain. We certainly see a slowdown at the ports. We see a slowdown in production. Some of our production was done or is being done in China. And so, with that and some of the challenges with the origination of COVID 19, it certainly has impacted the business. I would say that our continued focus is on the things that we can control and mitigating certainly risk factors, but more than anything, focusing on our teams, both internal and external. Heavy focus on high level communication. Typically, in times of stress, communication goes down. And so, being aware and cognizant of that, challenging ourselves to communicate more frequently than we have in the past. And so, for us, it's staying ahead of the things again that we can control, focusing on internal growth. Certainly impacted us on the employee front with some of the shelter in place orders across the country. We have distribution in South Carolina, which has remained somewhat protected under their governor's orders there for shipping and logistics. But as far as our California operations, we've had to furlough and move into work from home scenarios. That has been somewhat of a challenge, but we're also finding new strengths and new outcomes from our teams as they focus primarily on high level service to independent retailers, looking at ways that we can continue to keep them engaged from a communication standpoint. We're looking at elements of our culture as far as service to others. We've dug in and really focused on ways we can help engage in some of the frontline workers by providing both product and community support. And so I would say it's actually been a pleasant and nice gift to our community to be able to step into a place that sometimes we've been a little bit just so busy that we haven't had a chance to slow down and really focus on who we are and what we stand for and ways that we can serve one another.
Yeah, that's a really great point. I've seen a lot of companies reacting to it and speaking with several of our clients and just partners in the industry. And you are not alone. We are seeing, just unprecedented changes and quick reactions, and you're absolutely right. Like the changes and the like a resilience, that's the word I was looking for, that
Yeah.
you're able to take through this time period will really help as you're, again, aiming for that bounce back. So with that, because you do have a lot of changes happening in a quick period of time, to shift the focus in terms of marketing and what that looks like, what is the top priority in terms of a marketing channel within LuLaRoe, or in what channels are you planning in investing right now?
Sure. Our primary channel of communication and commerce has been social platforms. It has been for some time. We've been one of the early pioneers in social selling space, and so obviously Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, even TikTok as it's coming in, have all been channels that we've continued to focus on and enhance communication. Much of the social selling environment happens through live broadcast on some of those platforms. And so retailers that are able to engage community more effectively, be able to showcase product from their home, and the ability to connect in those VIP groups and some of their shopping groups has been important. Just general communication, making available more notifications and opportunities to communicate across platforms like Zoom and GoToMeeting and Adobe, where again it gives a platform for visibility, a platform for continued connection. And so, aside from that, fundraisers has been another area that we continue to focus on and have for some time. We can do those fundraiser events online and virtual platforms. And so, for us, continuing to stay really focused on communication across the social media platforms more so than traditional person to person at this time.
Yeah, I think that is really important. In our previous webinar, when we were sharing like the top trends right now, obviously digitization of almost every aspect of our quote unquote offline life is happening right now. And we see the trend on social media going from about 2 hours a day up to as high as 8 hours a day right now, because different, just like you said, different states have different shelter in place or recommendations. So everyone is on social more, which enables organizations like LuLaRoe to have more of it, more eyes at once, essentially.
Yeah.
So social selling, I think, is something that's really hard for organizations to master, and to see that you are one of the pioneers on it. One thing that caught my eye, or ear, I guess is the proper term, is TikTok, because that is a newer social media, one of the newest ones, and has a typical younger demographic. So can you speak to TikTok a little bit? I think that's just an interesting one to double click on.
Yeah, I'm not as versed in TikTok, but I
Mhm.
think the way that we see some of the independent retailers using it, in fact, it's been interesting all along in the evolution of the company. We've really been open to how independent retailers identify the social platforms in which they'll engage their customers and engage their peers. And so TikTok, we've noticed, has been starting to come on again to showcase personality, showcase what uh, independent retailers do day in and day out, to talk about product in a fun way. Very similar to some of the other platforms. It certainly reaches a new demographic, a younger
Mhm.
demographic. Um, it tends to see virality happen at a more rapid pace, but that virality also is very short lived. And so it really becomes more of a personality channel, a place where a retailer can stay in front of audience in maybe a more diversified way, not always product driven, but more community engagement. And so we're finding that it's an evolving tool. We see Snapchat as something similar to that, where again, it's giving a way for ongoing engagement. At the end of the day, It's the platform that's not going to sell product for you. It's how you engage your community. And we know from Simon Sinek, people don't care what you do, they care why you do it. And so all of those platforms give independent business owners an opportunity to speak to their values, their beliefs, the things that drive them in their daily pursuits. It allows them to connect with potential consumers and existing consumers in a more meaningful way than what they're typically used to with more of a stale brick and mortar type environment. And so we're finding that those retailers that are now exploring the fringes of what has been traditional social media into some of the new platforms are, again, finding new ways to be innovative, finding new ways to stay ahead of the curve on that, finding new markets, again, as a multi-generational brand and style base. We recognize the opportunity for new retailers coming into the business from both Gen Z and Gen Y, millennials, and it continues to evolve. We also know that there is a tendency with Gen Z to want to be more safe. They've grown up in an environment that's been very unpredictable, very volatile. So we find that their time and energy spent within their bubbles of safety, whether that be family or closely tied friends and peers, that they're being innovative in business, they're being innovative in their outreach and development of community, because that is a safe place for Gen Z. And so we find this multi-generational offering that's starting to develop across the different platforms, which would include TikTok.
Yeah, that is really powerful. I think you hit the absolute nail on the head with all of social media marketing. The theme is to get across you, your personality, and how whatever business you're in is influencing your life and what your message is behind it. And we see that as one of the common themes that we're highlighting across all of our marketing channels, is that you need to have a balanced approach. You need to be personal, and you need to really kind of pull the curtain back. So to hear that you've found that sweet spot within TikTok, as well as the other main social media channels like Facebook and Instagram, to be personable, but to still run your business at the end of the day is really an important point that I think needs to be stressed. Last question here is in regards to education of your independent retailers. How do you make sure that they're on the right track with their marketing or their social media efforts? And this can be in terms of, education. How do you share information with them, or about if you have maybe compliance policies or anything that they should be noting of when they're posting?
Sure. I would say that we tend to steer clear of a lot of advice and direction in the social space, because it's evolving and changing, and it is so much personality driven. I would say on a compliance aspect, one of the things that we want to make sure and be careful with as far as representatives or independent business owners tied to a brand is certainly anything that would preclude any sort of income claim or any sort of guarantee around the brand or opportunity. Certainly high-level service to customers is something that we want to see. We always challenge and teach engagement across platforms, that it is a place to communicate. It isn't a place to just to see that revolving door of customers come through. One of the challenges with e-com and album-based sales is it tends to be, again, not a very highly interactive, I shouldn't say engagement, highly interactive transaction. And so the tendency is to the service side of that transaction would be more of a shipping of product and possibly a thank you corresponding email. We certainly counsel on using your customer database to be able to continue to outreach in those times where you're not as socially engaged or not in interactive conversation. So customer service being high, customer acquisition being something that we continue to train on. Certainly looking at customer retention and how powerful that can be across all of the platforms that an independent retailer might have. But as far as ongoing training and resources, we challenge retailers to be innovative with their peers, to do peer-to-peer training as they develop and follow trends in social media. They look at new algorithms, new methods in which they might engage audience, new tools and resources that are available in the marketplace, to be very open to those and to just be privy to who they are as an independent business owner, who they represent as a brand, who they represent with regards to their peers, so that they're creating continuity of experience from a service level as well as a representation level.
Yeah, that's really interesting to see. I think that obviously makes sense within your greater social media plans about highlighting that personality behind the scenes, so you're able to have that grow your followers and presence and engagement in the long run. I think that absolutely makes sense. So with that being said, I did want to thank you for taking the time to speak with us today. Again, this is for our emergency marketing series on, what different organizations are doing during the COVID-19 pandemic to make sure that their business is able to stay focused in the long term. So thank you again, Art McCracken, the Chief Strategy Officer from LuLaRoe, for joining us.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.